Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now a bearish crossover is flashing on this Bitcoin chart, which we need to pay attention to as the price of Bitcoin is continuing to bounce between support and resistance in the shorter term, while Ethereum is still playing out the bearish divergence and Solana is still testing this critical area of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and currently the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish market. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course, the weekly Bitcoin MACD is still showing a bit of a slowdown in the bullish momentum, but we've not yet crossed in the bearish direction, at least on the weekly time frame in the MACD indicator. But if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course, we still have potentially a major bearish divergence to watch out for, which is technically confirmed with a couple of small confirmation signals confirming a lower high in place in the weekly Bitcoin RSI, while of course higher highs have already been confirmed in the price of Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And so once again, this is a bearish divergence telling us that we're due to potentially see a bit more of a slowdown in the price of Bitcoin, not necessarily a bear market like 2022, but the last time we saw a bearish divergence play out on the weekly time frame was around January leading into February and March. And of course, during that period in the market, we did see a decent pullback. And so it's worth paying attention to these possible warning signals of a slowdown on the larger timeframes, which are technically starting to confirm, especially this weekly bearish divergence here. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, we now have a bearish crossover, at least just flashing, not currently confirmed, but a bearish crossover flashing in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so in order for this to actually be confirmed, we need to wait for the next 3-day candle close, which confirms in roughly around 2.5 days from now. So potentially at this next 3-day candle close in a couple of days from now, once again, we could confirm this bearish crossover, or if it's not this candle close, it may end up being another 3 days after that at the next 3-day candle close. But either way, if we don't see any decent bullish move in the short term at some point in the next couple of days or so, it is looking likely we could confirm the bearish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD very soon. And just a reminder, the last couple of times we saw a bearish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, we saw a larger slowdown in the price of Bitcoin, basically a correction, a cool off from all of the bullish price action, but not necessarily the end of the bull market. So keep that in mind. It is still possible we can remain within a much larger bull market, but just potentially see a period of slowdown price action, so a lack in bullish momentum for possibly a number of weeks or months if some of these signals further confirm here. But if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, technically speaking, we're still within the bullish trends because we've not yet confirmed a new bearish trend on the daily time frame. But in order to confirm that, like I've said many times here on the channel, I'd like to see a break below this area of support sitting in between around 101,000 to 102,000. And obviously you can see here that the price of Bitcoin is still holding above that area. We're still finding a lot of support in that area. And so this could potentially just be a bit of a sideways consolidation here before ultimately expanding further towards the upside to continue this larger bullish trend. But technically speaking, once again, if we break below this area of support, that would technically start to confirm a new bearish trend, at least on the daily time frame, kind of like what we saw during February and March. And so once again, that would be the larger slowdown that we'll be looking for. If we actually break below this support, below 101,000 approximately, then we could be due to see potentially a larger slowdown, a larger correction in the price for a period of weeks or months. And if the price of Bitcoin confirms a break with candle closes below 101,000, in that situation, the next major area of support to the downside would be sitting in between roughly 96 to 98,000. But for now, in the somewhat shorter term here, the price is pretty much just chopping around sideways in a bit of a sideways price range between this strong area of support that I've mentioned many times. And of course, we have strong resistance at around 110,000 and also at 112,000. And if we're zooming further into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, we can see in the immediate short term, the price is just chopping around sideways between support and resistance here as well. So of course, we have support in between around 103.5k to 104,000 as the short-term area of support to watch out for. Once again, close to 104,000. And we have a lot of resistance sitting in between 106 to 107,000, especially at that 107k level. Previously, that's acted as major support and major resistance. And so this is simply the situation in the shorter term. We're lacking momentum, so most likely going to continue bouncing around between support and resistance, at least in the short term, for a period of hours or days. And of course, this is helping to reset the RSI back towards the upside out of those almost oversold levels, which I talked about a couple of days ago. Because once again, as I said a couple of days ago here on the channel, we're most likely going to see just a little bit of a break from all of this bearish price action here, because we're getting close to over oversold, which basically tells us we're starting to run out of room towards the downside, at least in the immediate short term, and we now need some time to reset the RSI, which is already starting to play out here. And so the only bad thing about this is, of course, as the RSI resets, that can technically give us more room towards the downside later on to potentially form more of a bearish trend. So keep that in mind. We need to really focus on these areas of support to basically keep the price potentially in this larger bullish trend for as long as we're holding above this significant support. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, currently we still have a lot of liquidity building at close to 112,000 and some liquidity building at around 100,000. So those are still the levels to focus on. But of course, between the current price and each of these levels of liquidity, we do have a lot of other support and resistance levels to also focus on. And so honestly, in the immediate short term, what I expect is just a lack in momentum, bouncing around a little bit between support and resistance, at least for the next few hours or days. But once again, as I said near the beginning of the video, if we fail to see a decent breakout, perhaps above this area of resistance, a decent bullish move in the shorter term at some point in the next few days, if we do not see that, then that will help to further confirm these possible warning signals on the slightly larger timeframes. And so overall, those are my expectations in the shorter term and the possible signals to watch out for on the other charts here. And with that being said, looking at my exact trading strategy, currently I'm still in the larger swing trade, the long position for the price of Bitcoin, which I've been talking about every day for roughly 2 months now on the channel, since all the way back down here when we broke out above 88,000. Because like I said, back down there here on the channel, once we broke out above 88,000, that was a significant change in price structure, changing from a bearish trend into a new bullish trend. And so every day since then, I've just remained in this long position. Some periods here and there, I've taken some profits off the table out of that long position at some key levels of resistance along the way. But overall, that's just slightly reducing the size of the trade at each of those levels, not closing the entire trade. So I'm still overall long on the price of Bitcoin, with my stop loss sitting well into profits just below that key point of support, so that if we actually break below that area, that would basically hit my stop loss and automatically close the trade just below that level of support, obviously in profits here. But over the last couple of days, I've made no new changes to this position. You can see my realized profit still roughly the same, stop loss still sitting at the same level it was sitting at over the last few days. And of course, as always, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right here, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade over on 2bit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 you can actually claim using the link below this video just by trading crypto. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your 2bit account, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $45,000 in trading rewards, and also deposit bonuses. Like for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you also get a $200 bonus over on BTNex as well. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well get set up ready to go on these exchanges to claim these massive bonuses that you can only claim using those links. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and currently as of recording this video, Ethereum is still playing out the rejection from this strong area of resistance, still sitting in between roughly 2.7k to 2.8k. And so obviously continue to expect a lot of struggle, a lot of resistance around that area on the price chart. And as for support, of course, we have a lot of support at close to 2.4k, as we have seen many bounces from close to 2.4k over the last few weeks or so. And so that's definitely the support level to focus on right now. But if we see a confirmed break below 2.4k with daily candle closes confirming below that level, and especially if we fail to get back above that level on the price chart, in that situation, it's quite likely we could see a drop down towards 2.1k as the next major level of support. And then below 2.1k, we'll be targeting around 1.8k if we break these other levels first. But for now, obviously the price is still in a bit of a sideways price range, just bouncing around sideways, as we've seen pretty much every day over the last few weeks. For roughly a month now, we've just been bouncing around sideways between support and resistance. But what we now have playing out, and as I've already said over the last few days or so, we now have a bearish divergence technically confirmed on the daily Ethereum price chart, with higher highs confirmed in the price and lower highs confirmed in the daily Ethereum RSI. And so as always, a bearish divergence means we should not be expecting any significant bullish momentum anytime soon. Of course, occasionally we can see a little short-term bounce here and there while a bearish divergence is playing out, but don't expect significant bullish momentum, and overall expect either a bit more of a pullback in the price or at best potentially a bit of a sideways consolidation as the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence. And so honestly, I'll not be surprised if the price at some point in the next few days comes in for another test of this strong support at close to 2.4k. And then of course there is still the strong possibility we could bounce around there, as we've seen it many times over the last 1 month or so. And of course, as always, definitely focus on what Bitcoin is doing as well, because if Bitcoin continues more of a pullback, that can also drag the price of ETH further towards the downside, or vice versa. If Bitcoin somehow sees a quick bullish move soon, that can help the price of ETH in the shorter term. And with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for Solana. Technically, we're in a bit of a sideways price range, bouncing between support and resistance, and we're currently testing very important support sitting in between around 143 to 146, and this line of resistance is still sitting at around 167. And if the price of Solana can soon bounce from this area of support in between 143 to 146, in that situation we have a possible double bottom here, W pattern, which would be a bullish price pattern for the price of Solana, setting up a bullish price target, but only if we bounce very soon and then see a breakout above 167. Only then would that confirm a double bottom and a bullish price target. And so this is definitely a crucial moment for the price of Solana, because if we fail to hold this as support and we start confirming daily candle closes below around 143, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, finding it as a resistance, essentially in that situation I would expect to move down towards around 124 to 125 as the next major point of support. And then below that level, we could potentially retrace all the way back down towards the April lows. And so obviously this is one of the reasons as to why it is crucial for the price of Solana to hold this area of support in the coming hours and days, as we're now testing this support. And of course, once again, pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing. If Bitcoin continues a pullback here, that's really not going to help the price of Solana and most likely result in a breakdown if Bitcoin continues to pull back. So definitely focus on what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is most likely going to happen for a lot of these altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for XRP. Currently, we are lacking momentum to either direction in the shorter term. We have almost no bullish momentum and almost no bearish momentum. As we can see, we're just basically bouncing around sideways between support and resistance. And so currently the support to watch out for is sitting in between roughly $2.05 to $2.10, and the resistance to watch out for is at roughly around 233 to 236, give or take, in that area, in the 230 area, acting as strong resistance. And if we break out above that area, I would expect more resistance at around 244 and also at around 260. And if the price of XRP were to break below around $2.05, in that situation, we have more support in between roughly 192 to 195. And below that, the next important support will be sitting at around $1.80. But honestly, the price of XRP, once again, is lacking momentum in the shorter term. So overall, expect a little bit more of a sideways consolidation as the most likely outcome over the next few days, just in the short term here. And so other than that, honestly, not much has changed for the price of XRP over the last couple of days. So getting straight into the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, and currently Chainlink is also testing very important support, still sitting at roughly $12.80. And already over the last couple of days, we have seen a couple of short-term bounces from this level of support. So at least for now, in the immediate short term, it is still acting as support at $12.80. But if we confirm a break with candle closes below $12.80, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation, I would expect a bit more short-term support at just above $12, around $12.20, give or take. And then if we especially break below around $12.10 to $12.20, in that situation, I would expect to move below $11, potentially down towards around $10.90 as the next major support. And so, like I've said many times throughout the video, Chainlink is also at a crucial moment in the shorter term, running into very important support that we need to bounce at in order to, at least to some degree, remain somewhat bullish here, possibly form a double bottom if we can see a bounce very soon from this level. And in the case that we actually see a bounce, in that situation, expect resistance at roughly $14.10 to $14.20. $14.20, so just above $14, and major resistance in between $14.90 to $15.50, especially that $15.50 level still acting as very strong resistance. But overall, honestly, just focus on what Bitcoin is doing. If Bitcoin continues in a bit of a sideways price range, we'll likely see something similar in the shorter term for Chainlink and a lot of the altcoins. And then, of course, if Bitcoin continues perhaps a little bit more of a cool off here, it's very likely in that situation, Chainlink would break below 1280, which of course would be bearish, pointing towards these next price targets. And so those are the things to watch out for in the shorter term and the key levels of support and resistance to watch out for. And as always, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, get set up, ready to go using the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto to make a lot of easy profits in the market like what I'm doing right here, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.